How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new Amazon video. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing pick and stow. I'm going to be bringing up some pros and cons for both pick and stow just a little bit. I'm going to try to make this video as short as I can because I don't want to make it like 45 minutes because I really could do that if I were talking about these two positions. But again, I'm going to try to make it short, and I'm going to be kind of giving a final verdict at the end at which one I prefer. And yeah, go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at Nathan Padilla. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get straight on with the pros for pick. I'm going to get started straight on with the first pro, which is constant work. The time goes by so much faster in pick. That's one of the pros about pick, is that you're constantly getting work, and it makes the time go by much faster like that. If you are constantly getting work and not just sitting there, like just standing there for a little bit like you do in stow sometimes, it makes the time go faster, and overall it makes it more enjoyable of an experience because you're just constantly going by. And I should say too, before I get on with the rest of this video, the reason that I am doing this video is because for the past like 2 months, I think, probably the past 2 months, I've been doing nothing but pick. If you watch my videos, you'll know that I only do stow. That's pretty much all I ever do. Sometimes I do pick and pack, but for the most part, I just am a stower. But for the past month or two, I think like 2 months at this point, I have stowed 1 day in the past 2 months. I've been doing nothing but pick every single day. They've been having me labor shared because we're just way too overstaffed in stow, and they're still overstaffed in pig too, but I think we're more overstaffed in stow. So that's the reason for this list. Sorry, I should have said that at the beginning, but I kind of just want to compare the two and give you guys an example, or give you guys a kind of answer on which one I like more. But let's get on with number 2 on the pros for pick. That's that the stations are much closer to the restrooms. For my site, I don't know if it is like this at all sites, but for my site specifically, our stow stations are super far from pick. I mean, from the restrooms. They are very, very far. But pickers, they are right next to the restrooms. You can do like a 30-second walk at most from the furthest pick station to the restroom. But when you're in stow, those walks are like 3 or 4 minutes, especially if you get a really, really bad area in stow. If you're like in the very, very middle, you're the furthest away from the restrooms, and you're very, very far. Like I said, like it could be a 3 or 4 minute walk just to get to the restroom alone, which is way too much TOT. But that's number 2 on the pros about pick, is that you're just way closer to the restrooms. It's a lot better and a lot easier than stow. And then number 3, the final pro. Of course, there's way more pros that I could say about pick, but again, I want to keep this video on the shorter side, and that's that the stations are secluded. That is the final pro for pick. I'm like tongue twisting here saying that, but the stations are much more secluded in pick, and I like it. You only there with like your teammate, and I say your teammate, it's just your coworker. Y'all have RSL stations. They're all set up in 2s, and they're pretty secluded. They're pretty far from the other pick stations. It's not like stow where you're like directly next to somebody, not as close as you are in pack, but you're still pretty close to somebody, and you could still, see them and see their screen and stuff. I don't really like that. It doesn't feel private enough. When you're in pick, it's definitely secluded and nice. And now with that being said, I was gonna do the pick cons first, but I think I'm gonna do the stow pros first, so we'll go ahead and do that. So the first stow pro that I have is that it's just the easiest work in the building. And when I say in the building, I mean the entire building. For everything that I've done so far, and from everything that I've seen other people do as well, stow is just absolutely by far the easiest work you can do in the entire facility. It doesn't get any easier than stow. Stow is just so easy. You're literally just putting stuff into bins, and that's it. You're scanning an item, putting it into a bin, and that's it. Like it's extremely, extremely easy. I love stow. I love doing, or I don't love stow, but I like it more than most other positions because it is so easy. It's not difficult at all. And that's definitely the biggest pro about stow in the first one. And the second one is that there's more rest time. Now this second one could also be considered a con. For me personally, I'm going to put it both in pros and cons, although it's not going to be officially in the Stow Cons list for this video. I would put it in the pros and the cons, but I'll say it as a pro for now, because you get more rest time. You get more time to take it slow a little bit, rest your body, so you're not constantly kicking your ass like you are in pick. Because in pick, it's very, very difficult, very physically demanding, and in stow, you get more rest. And if maybe you're not in shape a lot, or maybe you're completely out of shape, stow is probably better for you because it's so much easier. You get more rest time, and it's a lot more relaxed, especially compared to pick. It's significantly more relaxed. So that's the second pro for stow. Like I said, that can also be considered a con as well, because it does make the day go by slower, but I'll leave it in pros for now. And then we'll get on to the third pro. Sorry, I cannot talk right now. But the third pro for stow, which is it is slower paced and less physically demanding. I do have that as a con for pick, that it is faster paced, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Stow, it's just much slower paced overall and much less physically demanding. This again kind of ties in with number 2, and it could be it could be considered a con, but I'm going to consider it a pro because you're not leaving work feeling like your legs are burning or like your back is hurting way too much or anything like that. It's just a lot less physically demanding and it's a lot easier. And now we'll get onto the cons for pick. The first one is that there's constant station jams. If you work at a facility or if you work in an AR facility where you have the RSAW stations for pick, you'll know that it is a problem. At a lot of the RSAW stations at my site, they're constantly jamming for no reason. I don't know what will happen. Like, I don't know what stops it or what causes it to happen, but I know like before they used to say don't overfill your totes, so I stopped overfilling my totes completely. I don't let them go way too high and I just leave them lightweight and only like half filled. But the stations still jam pretty frequently, and I see it all the time. Amnesty's always having to fix the RSAW stations. It's always a problem at my site. I don't know if this is like all sites, but I know at my site it's definitely a big problem where the stations are constantly jamming for RSAW, and you do not get that problem at all for Stow at my site. I work at an AR facility that doesn't have decking. It might be different if you do have decking, but mine doesn't have decking, and we don't have the problem of stations jamming in the universal station. So, and to me, that's a huge pro about working Stow and a big con about working pick because you're constantly having your station jam. It happens like at least a couple times per shift for me, and it's really, really annoying. But the second one is that outbound brakes suck. This is a huge con about pick at my site. I don't like outbound at all at my site because there's just so many employees. Like I said, there's hardly enough break rooms. I said this in my last video. There's hardly enough break rooms and there's just way too many employees, and it's really, really packed. And if you're in pick, that means you're going into break at the same time as pack, whether it's singles or AFE. You're also going in with the same time as rebinders, the same time as outbound dock, the same time as so many other positions. There's so many positions going to break at the same time as pickers. And when you're in Stow, the only thing you have to worry about is your coworkers in Stow and then inbound dock, and that's it. That's literally all you have to worry about. The water spiders too, but there's hardly any water spiders compared to all the outbound positions. And there's just so many more people going to break during outbound at the same time, and it makes the break suck a lot. You have to go super early to find a space, and you have to wait in long lines for the microwaves, and it really, really sucks, honestly. And then the third con for pick, I spoke about this in the pros for Stow. It's just that it's so much more physically demanding. There's a lot more squatting, a lot more like going up and down constantly. You're basically constantly like squatting all day long. Your legs are constantly in use. You're going to be building some muscles for sure, don't get me wrong, but it can take a toll on your legs and a toll on your body overall. And if you choose not to squat and you want to bend down to get items in Stow, your back's going to feel, or in pick, your back's going to feel that pain. Overall, you're going to feel pain in pick unless you are in great shape, which I know most people probably are. There's probably a lot more people in pick that are in decent shape. I am not one of those people. I am out of shape, and I know that for me personally it sucks because I'm out of shape. I am trying to exercise a little bit more, but when I go to pick right now while I'm still out of shape, it sucks because I am constantly leaving with my legs burning or my back hurting. It sucks a lot, and it is a huge pro for pick in my opinion. And now to get onto the final list, the Stow Cons. This will be the last one, and then I'll get onto my final verdict on kind of like which one I like more at this very moment. Previously I've said Stow. That might change, that might not change, but let's get into the Stow Cons. The first one is that you are constantly running out of work. It is so easy to run out of work in Stow. I don't know if this is a problem at facilities that have decking, but mine doesn't have decking, and we depend on nothing but our water spiders to give us work, and we're constantly running out of work. That's just how it is. We're always running out of work, especially if it's really slow that day and dock isn't getting a lot of work. We're constantly running out, and that can really affect our tack time. It can really affect our rate and a lot of different other things. It could put us into the bottom 5% and get a write-up even though it's not our fault. It really, really sucks. The second con for Stow, though, I spoke about this earlier. The stations are super, super far from the restrooms. I won't get into too much into it because I've already spoke about it earlier, but they're very, very far. And then the final one is that the work is dependent on other people, whether that be the water spiders or whether that be dock. Dock might not send good work to your floor. They might send nothing but big items to your floor, so your rate is going to be struggling in Stow. Or maybe they do send a good mix, but the water spider only gives you big items. Maybe they're giving super small items to somebody somebody else, and they're preferring to give you the really big items, and it sucks overall. It's very unfair, and it sucks that your rate and maybe you getting a write-up all depends on somebody else and not just yourself, because in pick it all depends on pretty much yourself. You're working as fast as you can, and it's on your own terms. You might get a little bit of barriers here and there, but it's not nearly as bad as in Stow, where you can constantly be getting huge items, and you might be getting treated poorly by the water spotters. They might intentionally not give you any work. It happens sometimes for whatever reason, and it just sucks. Overall, being a stower sucks because your work and how good you're working that day depends on other people, and that's a huge con about Stow. But with that being said, that is the end of all the pros and the cons for Stow and pick. And now let's get on to my final verdict. So like I said, I've been doing both of these positions for a while, but mostly for the last 2 months, I've done nothing but pick after several, like over a year and a half of doing Stow. I've finally been doing pick a lot more often lately, and that's kind of what made me come up with this video idea. And now that I think about it, I think at this very moment currently, I actually prefer pick. This is crazy because I've always said I hate pick. I've always said that Stow is so much better than pick. And I think generally speaking, I do think that Stow is still better than pick, and I still prefer Stow over pick. But in this very moment currently, just right now, not overall, but just right now, for the last couple of months, I have been preferring pick, I'm not gonna lie. Usually beforehand, like I used to be sent to pick sometimes, and I'd be so disappointed. It made me want to leave sometimes, and sometimes I literally would leave because I didn't want to be there and pick. But lately, I just haven't minded it. The days have been going so much faster because the work is so much more fast paced. There's like no breaks in between your work. You won't just run out of work. I mean, you can occasionally, but it rarely ever happens at my site in pick. And it's just so much faster paced. I like being closer to the restrooms. I like being closer to the break rooms. And overall, I definitely prefer pick. It's also easier, like whenever you're returning from break, it's also easier to do the scan to scan break so much faster, because in pick, the pods come so much fast. That's another good thing about pick as well, is that there's so much more pods and so much more room for pods to come to your station, as opposed to Stow, where you're very limited and you don't get a lot of pods. And it also depends on how much work you have and how much work you're signed into, where pick, you're just constantly getting work. And I think I've enjoyed that more lately. I've enjoyed just being constantly working and having my mind focused on the work and whatever else I'm doing, instead of Stow, where I can get sidetracked really easily, or I can go like 10 or 15 minutes without any work. And not only does it make the day go by slower when you're doing that, it's also just a lot more boring and a lot more mentally taxing. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle because the whole week goes by slower when you're stowing. And honestly, I have preferred pick lately. It's crazy. I didn't think I would ever say this, but I have preferred pick. And you better believe, if I see a donut shift open for pick, I low-key might take it, because I've been wanting to take a donut shift lately, but there just hasn't been any available for Stow. And if I see any for pick, I'm probably gonna go for it. But with that being said, I'm gonna end that there. Guys, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you've done Stow and pick, let me know down in the comments below what you think about both of them and which one you prefer. And if you've only done one of them, just let me know if you like it or not. But yeah, I'm gonna end that there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, at Nathan Padilla, and also subscribe to my other YouTube channel, Nathan Padilla. Link is in the description below. I'll be releasing some content for that channel soon. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe down below if you haven't already. Peace.